It rained for 3 days. The sky is gray, so gray. A deep cut slowly makes its way through the pallid clouds, and a figure emerges. Draped in black cloth, head to toe all black. Boots as black as tar, cloak lashing to and fro with the wind. His two-handed sword on his back, axe on his left side, sword on the right. A modified shotgun on a leather sling hangs downwards. The disgusting human creatures scream in panic and run in all directions, taking with them their lies and deceptions. The Death Knight gazes at the humans with an empty stare as they knock each other down in a mad dash to safety. He wishes to slaughter them as they flee. This was the excerpt from the 25-year-old Kimveer Gill's online journal at vampirefreaks.com, the gunman who terrorized innocent people for 15 minutes on September 13, 2006, at Montreal's Dawson College. He was dressed in a black trench coat and opened fire in the college, killing an 18-year-old woman and injuring 19 others before taking his own life. According to eyewitness reports, Gill was spotted on Dawson College's doorsteps at 12:40 p.m. The first of more than 400 calls to 911 was received 1 minute later. Cyrielle Vincent was a social sciences student at the time. According to her statement in a September 14, 2006 interview with the London Free Press, Cyrielle said that they noticed him right away and he stood out with his black coat and mohawk. Then, he would suddenly start firing away. As the gunfire erupted, students fled in fear, some falling to the ground, blood pouring from their wounds, as the stone-faced shooter carried on his rampage. After what seemed like an eternity to those present, Gill turned his attention away from the students outside and walked into the building, shooting randomly at anything that moved. Remarkably, 2 police officers happened to be passing by the college just minutes after the shooting began. They immediately exited their vehicle and cautiously made their way inside the building. Once inside the school, Gill positioned himself behind a vending machine, where he was able to take cover as he fired at anyone within sight. At one point, he zeroed in on a teenager who tried to photograph him with his mobile phone, causing the teen to run from a hail of bullets. Andrea Barone, who was 17 at the time, described it as a horrifying scene to the Toronto Star. According to her statement, they were all hidden behind the wall in the cafeteria. All they heard was gunshots back and forth every minute, and she said that went on for about 15 minutes, and all he was saying was, "Get back, get back." He was obviously talking to the policemen because they were slowly coming closer to him. As the sound of gunshots faded and the smell of gunpowder drifted away, one student was dead and several others were wounded. Kimveer Gill's own body lay motionless near the entranceway, a pool of blood surrounding him. Today we have witnessed a cowardly and senseless act of violence unfold at Montreal's Dawson College, Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper said during a press conference shortly after the shootings took place. Our primary concern right now is to ensure the safety and recovery of all those who were injured during this tragedy. During his own statement to the press, Montreal Police Chief Yvan Delorme said the gunman appeared to have used 3 weapons and fired indiscriminately until confronted by police officers. He said the gunman wounded 20 people, 5 of whom were in critical condition. Delorme also confirmed the death of 18-year-old Anastasia de Sousa, who died at the scene. The victims were ferried to 3 hospitals, the most seriously injured to the trauma unit of Montreal General Hospital, and others to the Jewish General and Jean Talon Hospital. Victims' wounds included gunshots to the head, abdomen, chest, and limbs. It was later revealed that while Gill was in fact shot in the arm by police gunfire, his death was ultimately the result of a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. In the aftermath of the shooting, Canadian authorities once again found themselves under the national spotlight. Last week's shooting was the 3rd in 16 years at an educational institution in Quebec. The most recent occurred in August 1992, when Valérie Fabricant, a mechanical engineering professor at Concordia University in Montreal, shot 4 professors and a secretary. 3 died at the scene, and the 4th perished days later in hospital. 3 years prior to that incident, in December 1989, gunman Marc Lepine killed 14 women at Montreal's École Polytechnique before shooting himself. We may never know what drove Kimveer Gill on a violent shooting rampage, however, oftentimes the devil is in the details. If we take the time to look into his life, we can, at the very least, gain some insight into his thoughts. In this particular case, the killer left behind an internet blog, which offers us a glimpse into his disturbed mind. Kimveer Gill was a depressed and troubled young man. He was an unemployed loner who lived in his parents' basement in the Montreal suburban neighborhood of Laval. Kimveer Gill's posts to the vampirefreaks.com website revealed his disturbed nature and provide an insight into his predictable end. His screen name was Fatality66. Gill uploaded more than 50 pictures on his vampirefreaks.com page. Those pictures depicted him dressed like his heroes, the gunman from Columbine High School, in a long black trench coat and matching boots, carrying various weapons. In one of the pictures, entitled "You're Next," he was seen pointing a handgun at the camera. In his last photo on the Vampire Freaks blog, he was wearing his signature trench coat and holding up an automatic weapon with the text message "Ready for action." On his virtual tombstone, he wrote, "Kimveer, lived fast, died young, left a mangled corpse." Gill posted many messages on Vampire Freaks. Sometimes he would post entries every 15 minutes. He wrote, "I love Vampire Freaks. This is my new home. I shall reside here till the day I die." Reading excerpts from his blog exposes the psychotic personality of a man who is obsessed with hate, death, and guns. For example, on March 15, 2006, Gill wrote, "I hate this world. I hate the people in it. I hate the way people live. I hate God. I hate deceivers. I hate betrayers. I hate religious zealots. I hate everything I hate so much. Look what this wretched world has done to me." His role models were outlaws such as Bonnie and Clyde, as well as Romeo and Juliet. Couples who disregarded societal norms and had died tragic deaths as a result. He admired the Germans, especially Adolf Hitler, and wrote one entry in German, "I will crush my enemies and eliminate them." About 2 hours before the rampage, Gill wrote on the site he had been drinking whiskey in the morning and described his mood the night before as crazy. In another post, he wrote, "Give them what they deserve before you go." The word "them" refers to a vast array of people, places, and things. Among his most hated things were comedies, governments, sunlight, and country music. Gill expressed loathing towards authority figures such as police, teachers, and principals. He singled out jocks for high school bullying. Furthermore, 9 months before his rampage, he wrote specifically that the day in which he planned to seek revenge would be gray. Indeed, such was the weather on the day of his rampage. Gill did not restrict his violent thoughts to his blog on Vampire Freaks. He posted various disturbing and distressing comments on other websites as well. Gill's dark attitude towards the world was confirmed by personality tests he took on the internet. A test named Evil O-Meter rated him as pure evil. Another quiz, Which Dictator Are You?, suggested that his personality was consistent with Adolf Hitler's personality. A personality test based on one of his favorite video games, Postal, rated him as having an 84% chance of going postal, which is to say being involved in a violent massacre, and an 86% chance of killing someone. These outcomes were accompanied by a recommendation to seek professional help immediately. A police source commented in the aftermath of Gill's rampage, "It was very obvious his state of mind was deteriorating greatly over the last 3 weeks." All of the above materials were visible and easily accessible on the Vampire Freaks site. Possibly because of this openness, Gill thought the police were after him. In February 2006, on his blog, he wrote, "I know you're watching me, mother-s. I laugh at thee. There is nothing you can do to stop me. Ha 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 ha." Later that month, he claimed that officers were pretending to be nice little goth girls as part of their surveillance. Unfortunately, the police did not monitor Gill's actions. If they had, then the policemen would have undoubtedly come across Gill's disturbing virtual fingertips and explicit threats like one of his entries which described violence and gore. "Turn this f***ing world into a graveyard. Crush all those who stand in your way. Let there be a river of blood in your wake. Walk through that river with pride." Regrettably, no reader of the busy Vampire Freak site saw it necessary to alert law enforcement agencies to Gill's most dangerous content, and a tragedy that could be stopped, unfortunately, happened. What are your thoughts on this disturbing killer who took lives mercilessly and ended himself cowardly? Comment down your thoughts below and subscribe